Thousands of years ago, the prophet Elijah was praying on Mount Carmel when he had a vision of a cloud in the form of a foot rising up from some murky water. In this vision, God revealed to the prophet Elijah that eventually God would send a savior to mankind. As Israelite men started to notice the prophet Elijah's prayerfulness, they were inspired by his example and also gathered on Mount Carmel around the prophet Elijah to live as hermits and to pray for the salvation of the Israelites' souls. In each of our lives, we all want a purpose. We all want to give ourselves to something greater than ourselves. The Carmelite men in Wyoming do this specifically through giving their lives totally to God. As a seminarian in a repurposed Carmelite monastery, I have been exposed to plenty of Carmelite information. I have been studying Carmelite spirituality for my own spiritual growth and guidance. The Wyoming Carmelites live lives of prayer and manual labor, punctuated with a deep spirituality. Through their lives, the Carmelite monks in Wyoming impact the world by offering sacrifice for sins. Manual labor is very important in the Carmelites' life. In their ancient rule, written by Pope St. Albert, it is written that the Carmelite must give himself to work in order so that he might not fall into idleness and sin. Work is supposed to root out vice and create virtue in the Carmelites, and it also helps to discipline their body. Some of the work that they do, they do construction, they have cattle that they herd, and they also do maintenance on their buildings, their chapel, and their living quarters. Also, one of the major works that they do that impacts the lives of many is they make a coffee called Mystic Monk Coffee. This impacts the lives of many. Even in the Vatican, there are people drinking Mystic Monk Coffee. And my own father was given Mystic Monk Coffee and he drinks it. Or at least he did drink it when he had it. The strength that the Carmelite needs to do this manual labor comes from prayerful worship. According to the Wyoming Carmelites, the holy sacrifice of the Mass is the source and summit of their faith. The Mass is the best form of worship that the Carmelite does in his whole day. Through the Mass, the Carmelite offers up sacrifice for the healing of souls in the world and in their own community wounded by sin. Also, the Carmelite puts strong emphasis and importance on mental prayer, and they spend 2 hours each day in mental prayer. And mental prayer helps them to give themselves totally to God for the salvation of their own souls and to save the souls of others who they are praying for. Manual labor and prayerful worship both point to the reality which the Carmelite is striving for. And this reality is union with God. This union with God is the sole focus of Carmelite spirituality, and it is wrought through detachment and intimacy. In the collected works of St. John of the Cross, a major Carmelite saint, St. John of the Cross is quoted as having written or said, "O Lord my God, who will seek you with simple and pure love, and not find you that you are all one can desire, for you show yourself first, and go out to meet those who seek you." Now, this pure love of which St. John of the Cross talks about is accomplished in the Carmelite's life through detachment from sin or from whatever it impedes them in getting to union with God in this life. Also, intimacy with God is greatly stressed in Carmelite spirituality. It is similarly to as a husband and wife are intimate, the Carmelite is also intimate with God. And this intimacy was wrought by prayer, virtue, and love of neighbor. And this intimacy with God that the Carmelite strives for is not selfish, because it leads to a greater love of their neighbor. And although more could be said about the Carmelites' lives in Wyoming, what I have said serves as a good introduction. Although secluded from society, the Carmelite in Wyoming impacts the world nonetheless. Through their lives of prayer, manual labor, and worship, the Carmelite offers up sacrifice for sins committed by souls, for souls wounded by sin. Now, how did the Carmelites come from Israel to Wyoming? Well, in Israel, as the Carmelites were praying on Mount Carmel, the Islamic faith started to become very prevalent in Israel. And since the Carmelites were Christian, they started to be persecuted, and so they left Carmel, they left Israel, and went into Europe. And eventually, they ended up in the state of Wyoming.